So I really want to talk about past struggles today because one thing I really notice with a lot of my clients is how much they're being held back by the past. And I want to preface this by saying you might not even be aware of it because oftentimes you aren't. And that's why this work is so important. And that's why this video is really going to help you to understand where you might still be holding on to things from the past, where you might be subconsciously blocked, even if you're not like aware of it right this second, and how to break free of that. So, like I said, a lot of people think they have moved on or they think that they're not carrying these things anymore. But when we really dive into things onto an energetic level and onto a deeper subconscious level, even, there's usually still roots, there's still some underlying tension or negativity or pain and hurt that came from these past struggles. So it doesn't matter what kind of experiences you had growing up, and this doesn't have to go all the way back to childhood. Definitely be open when you're listening to this. It doesn't have to be like childhood. It could be past struggles as in a year ago. It could be 5 years ago, 10, 20, 30, whatever. But especially with childhood, what we usually don't realize is that things are very traumatic to children. So you didn't have to experience deep trauma to have some of the trauma response. And especially as kids, if we feel hurt, if we feel let down, if we feel misunderstood or criticized, or even if just something goes on with our parents and it kind of hurts us and triggers us in a way, that can be very deeply traumatic to a child and really latches into their belief system, into their identity, and that determines who they become as they grow up. So you can probably think of a time in your childhood, a time in your past where something bad happened, or you didn't feel very good, you didn't feel very loved or supported, and you kind of carried that pain or that hurt. And I want you to think back on that situation and really be aware of how that made you feel and how that made you react. And then I want you to think about that specific situation and how if you can feel it right now, that means it's still affecting you. So how is that actually affecting you in your relationships, in your life, in your career? The biggest thing I see with clients, and I'll focus on like one specific example with relationships for today, is how our past impacts our relationships and how it can keep us stuck, and how it can keep us in negative patterns and cycles. And relationships are the perfect example for this. So if you're growing up and you had kind of a strained relationship with your dad, especially maybe you didn't feel like he loved you as much as you wanted, or he didn't express things the way you needed, then that is going to dramatically affect the way you have relationships with men as you get older. And it's going to affect the cycles that you find yourself in, the patterns, the people you are drawn to, the people you settle for or choose. And a lot of times with women, they get stuck in these cycles. And I'll be totally honest and vulnerable about my own. And that's exactly a cycle I was stuck in, because I felt that way with my dad. I was always searching for his approval. I really just wanted to feel totally loved. And he did love me, but he showed it differently than what I needed or what I understood. And so I didn't really believe it. Fast forward to being a teenager, or like a grown-up, I guess, and it really impacted when I had relationships with men and the guys I chose, because I was always looking for approval from my dad, which translated into always looking for approval from men and never feeling like I was good enough and needing that validation or needing that attention or needing them to give me this praise or this love or something. And 99% of the time, if you're in that situation, you end up choosing people who are very similar to the person who hurt you, because that's what you've spent a lifetime creating. That's the energy you're carrying and the beliefs you have. So a lot of the time you end up going after people who kind of replicate and match that, because subconsciously that's what you feel you deserve, because that's what you've spent a long time listening to or believing, right? So then you get annoyed, and I did too. I got so annoyed because I was like, why do I keep attracting these guys who aren't very considerate? They aren't very nice. They're not really making me feel special or feel good enough. They're not helping me and my insecurities in any way. But it's super important to realize that that was my energy. I caused that. I attracted that because of my own beliefs, my own limiting beliefs, my own trauma from childhood, and what it was that I was kind of searching for. And that's why it's so, so crucial to actually release the past once and for all, because this is just one example with relationships, but it affects you in how you show up in friendships, in your job. You know, if you never felt good enough, if you had a teacher who made you feel stupid, you are still carrying that limiting belief somewhere in your subconscious. It's still holding you back from showing up as your true self, and that's going to affect you in your job, because now you're going to be searching and like just hoping for that approval from your boss or your coworkers, or hoping for someone to give you the acknowledgement that you lacked at some point in your life. And most likely, because of the way energy works and the way these cycles work, the people who we end up working for are kind of matching the energy, and so we're not getting what we want. So we're still feeling the exact same way. They're kind of doing the same thing our teachers did, and it leads to us continuing to struggle and continuing to feel unworthy, feel not good enough, and yet try and hustle and work so hard to try and get that approval, and then we still don't get it. So it's a really, really vicious cycle to get in when you are being held back by your past, and when you have these deeply rooted issues or belief systems, because I quickly mentioned it before, that becomes your identity. If you believe something for years, that's your identity. That's what you believe it, you embody it, you take that on every day, and that's who you are. So if you're carrying negative things or struggles or trauma or limiting beliefs, then that's what you're going to end up believing, like wholeheartedly, and that's what you're going to continue to embody and attract and stay stuck in. So until you identify these things, until you actually cut the cord, so to speak, and release that attachment to this identity, to those beliefs, to your past struggles, until you release that, you will stay stuck in that cycle. That's why it's so important to do the inner healing work, to do the releasing, to really not be afraid to face these things head on. You know, you have to face these things. You have to go into the fire if you want to come out on the other side. If you want to stay stuck and keep struggling and keep attracting the same situations, you can stay where you are. That's totally fine. But you're going to get the same results, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I was insane for a lot of years because I kept doing the same things, and I'd think like, oh, I know, I've released that, I'm ready, like I'm ready for someone different, but I still hadn't done the deep releasing work. I hadn't gotten to the core root of these things. I hadn't actually worked through them, and so I continued to stay stuck in the cycle. So it was just the definition of insanity, going through it over and over and over again. And I don't want that for you guys. I don't want that for anyone, because that's not a fun place to be in. And I've struggled there for long enough in my own life. And I'm so grateful and like passionate and excited about the fact that I was able to find my way out of those cycles and to break free and cut those cords and really start to create the identity that I wanted and create the beliefs that I wanted, and have my present experience, reflect what it was that I've now created, instead of reflecting what I spent years created in the past. So it really is possible for you to break out of these cycles, to break out of these patterns, but it does take a lot of aligned effort, like a lot of focus, a lot of awareness, and the right tools. And that's what I want to share with you. That's what I'm so passionate about helping you do. So if you are someone who's listening to this and you're like, I'm tired of staying stuck in these struggles with relationships, I'm tired of attracting someone who doesn't make me feel good enough, and I'm ready to start to feel good enough in who I am on my own. And sorry, something's going weird on my internet. Okay. And I've got half a mullet going because my hair's too short. So we'll just ignore that and pretend it's normal. Okay, so what I was saying is that if you're stuck in these cycles, if you feel like you are ready to break out of these cycles, you don't want to keep going over and over again through the same problems, having the same heartache, the same pain, and then 2 months later, meeting someone, having that same energy giving off from you, attracting someone who matches that energy, getting stuck in that same cycle again, going through it again, and then being let down, disappointed, and hurt again. If you don't want to do that, book a breakthrough call, because this is something we can talk about, but it depends on each situation. So in order for me to help you with this, we need to talk. We need to be able to discuss what's going on so that I get an idea of, your specific circumstance, and that's something that I'm really good at, is picking up on these things and uncovering these blocks, uncovering where they stem from, really diving into that with you so you can continue to stay stuck in the struggle and the cycle by yourself, or you can book this call. It's a free breakthrough call. We can dive into it. We'll see what's going on. I can help you uncover some of these limitations, find some clarity around what's going on and what's holding you back, what the root cause might be, where your past is still clinging on with, because it doesn't want to let you go. It wants to keep you there. It wants to keep you stuck. And we can dive into that on the call, and then I'll help you however I can, whether we create a plan for you, whether you are a fit for one of my programs and I can help you further, or whether, if that's not a good fit, whether I have some resources. And I definitely do, because this is my life's work. So there's so many tools that I'd be able to direct you in the right direction of. I'd be able to point you in the right direction if need be. So definitely book a breakthrough call. Let's talk about this. Let's get you out of these cycles, because there's nothing worse than feeling discomfort and feeling pain and starting to feel even more limiting beliefs and unworthiness, starting to question even more, is it me? What's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? Why does this keep happening? Those are the worst questions, the worst feelings to be stuck in. And I don't want you to stay there any longer. So let's get on a call. Let's talk about it. Let's see where I can help you. And let's get you on the fast track. Let's get you moving through this so that next person you meet can be someone who appreciates you, or that next boss you have is going to actually give you the gratitude or the appreciation, the respect that you deserve. Your new friends are going to actually be up on the level you want to be on, instead of continuing to attract and cycle and stay down here in this negative place because of the past circumstances and because of the baggage you're carrying. So that is the best way to break free from the past, is to get on a call with me and let me help you identify, let me help you work through this so that you can fast track yourself and use the right tools and apply the right tools to actually get you the results that you want. So I would love to talk to you, and I can't wait to dive into this more and help you more. If you're watching this and you have any questions, comment them for sure. Let's talk. Let's make this an open discussion. And everyone in here has some form of baggage, right? Everyone here is carrying something, but the more we start to open up and talk about it, the better everything is. So you can't keep hiding it or carrying it to yourself if you want to find release, if you want to find change and support. So reach out. Don't carry it yourself. Let's talk.